Hello and welcome to the 2024 NFL season preview video as we take a look at each team in the league, what their chances are of making the playoffs, what their chances are of going on a deep postseason run, how our Detroit Lions are going to do, and I'll also make some predictions for week one. There's a lot to cover, so let's get started. We'll start by taking a look at the AFC East and who I think will finish in each spot. Beginning with the team I think that will win it, the Buffalo Bills. While the Bills did lose Steph Diggs in the offseason, they still have one of the premier quarterbacks in the league and the guy who's led them to several consecutive division titles in the wake of Tom Brady's exit and the Patriots' reign of terror finally ending. I think that Josh Allen is still capable of winning this division, even though there are questions about whether or not the team is going to reach the Super Bowl under him. I do feel confident that they will be able to win the East as they have the last few years. In number two, I see the Miami Dolphins finishing strong here. They still have one of the top offenses in the entire league. And I can expect that to continue this year with one of the best duos, if not the best receiver duos in the league, of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, plus a dynamic duo at running back and a great quarterback in Tua. But even with Tua leading the league in passing yards and Tyreek Hill setting the Dolphins record for most receiving yards in a single season, they were not able to win the division against Buffalo, and I think that will continue this year as I see Miami putting together a good year and being a team that could make the postseason. But I do see them finishing second in the division. In third, I have the New York Jets. A lot of people see this as a team that could win a Super Bowl with Rodgers here. And while that would certainly help, and he is one of the great quarterbacks of all time, I have a lot of concern about this team entering this year due to the fact that Rodgers is in his early 40s and is coming off of a massive injury. And when he went down with his injury last year, the team fell apart. They do have a lot of talent, but they had that talent last year and still couldn't do anything without him. And while I don't expect him to miss much time with injury, I think the idea that he's going to be completely healthy throughout the year is a little bit silly to me. It just seems that he may miss a little bit of time. And if he does, that's really going to hurt the team. And that might be enough for them to fall back in this division race. However, I do see New York finishing noticeably better than the team I have in last in this division, and that is the Patriots. The Patriots are going to have a rookie quarterback that I think could be very good this year, but it's still a team that is very young, doesn't have a lot of talent, and it's going to take them a little while for things to turn around, even if they did hit gold with Drake May as their quarterback. But you know what? If there's one team that can afford to take a little bit of a break and a few years of mediocrity, it's the Patriots. In the AFC North, I have the Baltimore Ravens winning once again. Lamar Jackson coming off of an MVP season with the addition of Derrick Henry. It's going to make this team truly lethal this year. While there are some people who are a bit disappointed just due to the fact that their season didn't end the way a lot of people thought it would. This was a team that for a lot of the regular season, especially down the stretch, looked like the best team in football. And for them to fall short of winning the Super Bowl or appearing in the Super Bowl is disappointing. The team still has a lot of talent, still made it to the AFC title game. And I think that the AFC North is the toughest division in football, but there are enough pieces for me to buy into the Ravens this year winning it. I have the Bengals at second. I feel like a lot of people see the Bengals as a team that can win the Super Bowl this year due to the fact that they're the only AFC team that has actually been to the Super Bowl since Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs have taken over the conference. And while I could certainly see that, there are just a few more question marks that they have than the Ravens do. Jamar Chase currently holding out. At one point, you had Trey Hendrickson and T. Higgins both having some issues with the team and their futures in Cincinnati being unclear. And Joe Burrow's also coming off of a massive injury. These are all really talented players who I think are going to be suited up for the team all in week one and will play and have great years this year. But I think it's enough for me to have some concern about them in the regular season standings, even though I think they can go on a great run in the postseason. At three, I have the other team from Ohio, the Cleveland Browns. one of the most confusing teams in the league just due to the fact that they traded a bunch of resources in order to get Deshaun Watson, making it seem like they would have a great quarterback, but a team that wasn't as good in defensively or wouldn't have that many great pieces on their offense. The roster as a whole is incredible. The defense is one of the best in the league. And weirdly enough, Deshaun Watson's been holding them back. And I think that is going to continue this year. I think they're going to have a decent year, but I think quarterback play in the tough division they're in is what's going to keep them from going further and from really competing and winning the division. And in last place, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, I still see them as being a relevant team. Mike Tomlin has managed to keep this team above 500 every single year during his tenure as Steelers coach. And I think the fact that he's been able to do that with Mason Rudolph and Kenny Pickett is pretty impressive. I know there are a lot of questions about Justin Fields and Russell Wilson as quarterbacks, and I don't see either of them being particularly great, but I still see the team being relevant in 2024. In the AFC South, I have the Houston Texans winning the division. I am very high on the Texans. I was blown away with how good CJ Stroud was as a rookie. I figured he would have a good career, but I didn't expect him to win a playoff game in his rookie season. And the Texans have just done everything they can this offseason to build the team, adding in Neil Hunter, adding Steph Diggs on a roster that already has a bunch of talent, also bringing in Joe Mixon. They have the potential to have a really good defense paired up with maybe the most stacked offense in the league. I mean, I don't know that there is a team that has a trio of receivers quite like what Houston has. This is going to be another tough division. I think that the AFC, for as much as everybody talks about it's Kansas City's conference and they're the team that they expect to go back to the Super Bowl, there's so much talent, and the AFC South is a great example of that. But I think that Houston is the clear-cut best team in this division. At number 2, I have Jacksonville. This is a team that I think has really nice upside, but it's also a team that kind of worries me a little bit because even though we've seen that Trevor Lawrence is capable of being a really good quarterback, and this is a guy who does have a playoff win, the team feels sort of underwhelming under him. Considering the fact that he is such a highly regarded player and he was this prospect that looked like he was going to be a generational talent. He's done well, but he hasn't quite lived up to the expectations that a lot of people had for him. I feel like this is sort of a year where if he doesn't step up and lead the team back to the playoffs, the team behind them that I think is going to be number 3 in this division is going to take that place. And I think that the Jaguars are capable of being a playoff team this year. And, Lawrence, when he got hurt last year, the entire offense and the team as a whole really struggled. So if he's healthy and he's good, this could be a great year for the Jaguars. Right now I have them at number 2. Number 3, I have the Colts, who are the epitome of a high upside team. Anthony Richardson has the potential to be the next big name in the NFL. And I'm not sure if that's his potential is going to translate to wins and losses. I think fantasy-wise, he's going to put up some great numbers, and I think the team's still going to be solid. Don't forget they also have a pretty good defense as well as Jonathan Taylor. So I see this team fighting for a playoff spot. I really don't know what to expect from the Colts, which is why they're not higher on this list. But I think that they will be another team that'll be third place in their division, but could still be fighting for a playoff spot. The team that I don't think will be fighting for a playoff spot in this division are the Tennessee Titans. I was encouraged at times by Will Levis, and I do think they have some nice pieces around him, but it's just not as impressive of a roster as some of these other teams in their division, and I don't think they have a quarterback that I have as much faith in as the Texans, Colts, and Jaguars do. So they could be a fun team that might surprise some people, but I don't think they're going to be anything special. In the AFC West, I do have the Kansas City Chiefs once again winning this division. And even though I've mentioned in the last few for the last few divisions that there's a lot of competition, this is the one in the AFC West in the AFC where I don't see a lot of competition coming. I think it's pretty clear that the Chiefs are the best team in this division. They have just been dominant against the Raiders, Broncos, and Chargers. And while I'm not sure that the Chiefs are necessarily going to three-peat, just due to the fact that that is incredibly difficult and it's something that hasn't been done before, I still see them easily being in a position to go on a deep playoff run. This is still an amazing team, perhaps the best roster in the NFL. And I just don't see anybody else in the West catching up to them, even if they do play a bit better than expected. In number two, though, I do have the Chargers. I think they'll take a step forward and might be a team fighting for a playoff spot. There are some reasons to be optimistic about the Chargers. I think the addition of Jim Harbaugh is great, and I think that honestly, just moving on from their previous coach is one of the best things they could have done. I think he really held them back. Although there are still some questions about the Chargers for this year regarding the receivers, and I think their running game, they just don't have the explosive playmakers and pieces around Herbert that he has had in the past. But I think that's going to be built with Harbaugh now at the helm, and I think that the offensive line is certainly a lot better. So this is a team that I think has a bright future and a solid present, but I don't see them competing with Kansas City this year. I see a fun year, though, for the number three team in the Raiders. I think they're a little better than people give them credit for. I don't see them being great. I don't see them going to the playoffs. I don't really see them with a winning record, but I think people have very low expectations for this team. And I think they're better than expected. They still have Devontae Adams. They still have some promising young tight ends. Gardner Minshew, while not a great quarterback, was able to take the Colts to the playoffs last year. I just think this is a team that could be all right, even though I don't think they're going to be anything great. I still think that they could be a team that'll be all decent in the AFC West and might benefit from the fact that this is a division with one great team and three other teams trying to figure things out. And in fourth place, I have the team that right now is the most to figure out, and that is the Denver Broncos. They have not had much success at the quarterback position. Uh, Honestly, in the last decade. I mean, 2014 is when you started to see Peyton Manning start to struggle a little bit more, and that's when you started to notice that Brock Osweiler was not the guy. They have not found a replacement yet. I like Bo Nix, and I think he could be very good, but it's going to take him a little bit of time. I mean, this team is just not ready to compete. That's usually the case for teams with rookie quarterbacks. I think that they have reason to be optimistic, but in the moment, in the near future, I don't think anything's going to be great for the Broncos, but I still could see them doing well later on in the 2020s with Bo Nix at quarterback. So the four division winners that I have in the AFC this year are the Bills, the Ravens, the Texans, and the Chiefs. And my three wild card predictions for the AFC this year are the Bengals, the Dolphins, and the Jaguars. So that means I don't see the Jets being a playoff team this year, nor the Browns, nor the Colts, even though I think that or the Chargers, frankly, and even though I think all those teams have a shot at the postseason and could be pretty decent this year, I don't see them actually making it into the postseason this year. And again, while I know that most people will pick the Chiefs to win the AFC, and maybe that's the right move logically, just because this team has been so successful and they just repeated. My issue with them has nothing to do with their roster. It just has to do with the fact that no one's ever won three straight Super Bowls before. I mean, we're really high on them because they just won their second straight Super Bowl, which is great, but that's something that hasn't been done in about 20 years. This league is just not built for the same team to win year after year after year. And that's why I think that the AFC is going to go to the Houston Texans. This is a red hot young team with a great quarterback who had a rookie year that just beat expectations. And quarterbacks tend to play better in year two than they do in year one. You'll see certain guys who have rough rookie years really step up in year two. And while a sophomore slump is certainly possible for CJ Stroud, I don't think we're going to see him struggle much. He might not be quite as dominant, but I think that they put enough pieces around him this year in the offseason that I don't think it really matters. So I have the Texans winning the AFC this year.